level of public speaking is. There's always room for growth, and it's one of those things that with time and practice, things always end up getting better. As mentioned, the front portion of our meeting is all about presentation. Today we're fortunate enough to have a planned speech. Let me maybe back up and explain that. So every one of us in the Birdcage Toastmasters group is on a program of sorts, with different challenges along the way. In this case, we are welcoming a fellow Toastmaster who's working on her Competent Communicators Manual. It's the first program as such. This speech is the 7th of the 10 in the series. The idea behind this is to research a topic. The objective of the speech is to conduct appropriate research and then incorporate the research into a speech and provide support into key arguments. It is with great pleasure that I welcome to the lectern today, Roberta Campbell. Please welcome Roberta.
Jerry Seinfeld has been quoted as saying that at a funeral, people would rather be in the casket than up here at the lectern giving the eulogy. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our most welcome guests, this quote demonstrates one of the reasons why many of us come to our first Toastmasters meeting. Because the day is coming when you and you and you are going to need to speak, and Toastmasters can be the lifeline that will overcome that fear, that dread of being asked, or worse, required to speak. October 2014 was the 90th anniversary of Toastmasters, of the founding of Toastmasters International, and I wanted to recognize that date as part of our Taste of Toastmasters event, and provide you with some facts and stories about Toastmasters and why it is still relevant after 90 years. The first club started in a YMCA in Santa Ana, California, in 1924 by Ralph Smedley, an employee of the YMCA, with a passion to help others speak and lead. As the director of education at the Y, Smedley saw a need for men in the community to learn how to speak, conduct meetings, plan programs, and work on committees, and he wanted to help them. Smedley decided to organize a club where they could learn these skills in a social environment. Over a 10-year period, he developed the program that would become Toastmasters, overcoming the dread of public speaking by organizing people to practice and improve together. Word spread about the Toastmaster clubs, and soon people in surrounding communities and other states were asking how they could start their own club. In the late 1920s, Ralph Smedley wrote the Manual of Instructions and 10 Lessons in Public Speaking, and this made it possible to grow the organization. In 10 years, there was just over 30 clubs. In 1935, the first club outside of the United States was chartered in Victoria, British Columbia. The club, number 38, made Toastmasters truly international. And in fact, this is that club's slogan. They still say at the start of every meeting, the club that put the word international in Toastmasters International. This club is now named First Canadian and still meets weekly, Tuesday evenings at Camosun College at the Campus Centre building. A true story from the history of the First Canadian Club is that in accepting the charter, the president closed with these two words, "In conclusion," and then went on to explain that in the public speaking courses that he had taken, the instructor was very insistent on its use. Why? Because 1935, and probably still today, these two words provided relief to exhausted audiences everywhere. So the instructor instructed everyone to use them in your speech as soon as possible after your introduction. Our own club is named Birdcage and was chartered in 1991 as club number 8,394. Why Birdcage? Well, Birdcage is the name of the area nearby, so named because of the legislative buildings built here in 1859. There are many thoughts as to why the buildings were nicknamed the Birdcages. There is a clue in a local article where someone described the buildings as resembling in mixed style of architecture the latest fashion of Chinese pagoda, Swiss cottage, and Italian villa fancy bird cages. In 1893, the old buildings were moved to make room for what is our current Parliament buildings, and eventually all were demolished except for the Legislative Hall, which unfortunately was destroyed by fire in 1957. Since these beginnings, Toastmasters has impacted over 4 million people. And today, the organization serves over 313,000 current members in 126 countries through over 14,650 clubs. And the mission of Toastmasters today is to enable people to learn the arts of speaking, listening, and thinking. So what has changed since 1924? Toastmasters started as a men's organization. And it wasn't until 1970 that Toastmasters admitted its first female member, Helen Bouchard, as Homer Bouchard. And it was in 1973 when the Toastmasters officially admitted women, and Helen could become Helen instead of Homer, and in 1985 she became the first female president of Toastmasters. Toastmasters has grown from being an English-only organization to one that develops communication and leadership skills in several languages. More than 3,000 employers recognize Toastmasters, including Walt Disney, Coca-Cola, Apple Computer, and sponsor in-house Toastmaster clubs as communication training. These clubs are called corporate clubs and can restrict membership to employees of the organization. What will you learn in Toastmasters? 1, practice thinking on your feet. The comedian George Jessel once said, "The human brain starts working the moment you are born and never stops until you are asked to speak." Most of us have had the terrifying experience of freezing up when asked to speak unexpectedly. In addition to delivering prepared speeches, such as this one, Toastmasters gain experience in impromptu speaking during what is called table topics, in which we speak for 1 to 2 minutes on a subject for which we have had minimum advanced preparation. 2, experience in running time-efficient meetings. You've probably been in a meeting that dragged on and went over its allotted time. This doesn't happen in Toastmasters. Toastmasters time everything, and we meet for a set amount of time, often an hour, and are committed to staying within that time frame. 3, a time-tested program in skills development, which includes listening, critical thinking, giving feedback, time management, planning, implementation, organization, delegation, facilitation, mentoring, motivation, and teamwork. In conclusion, Mark Twain was a well-known author and humorist from the 19th century, and he said that it usually took him several weeks to deliver a short speech. And I can tell you, I can attest that it took me several weeks to prepare this introduction to Toastmasters and why it is relevant after 90 years. I do hope that you know more about Toastmasters now and how it could work for you. Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Roberta. It's evident just how much research went into that presentation. Great job. I'll leave Karen to do the rest of the evaluation. Before we move